Joel Embiid, how about a first half? Like better than most games that players are going to have this season? 30-14. Now, he's playing the Suns. We forget that for a second. Look at some of the defense. And whoopsie.
Whoa.
Traction. It's all about that traction. Dominance. This is the Embiid you like seeing.
You said first half.
That's a half, yeah. It's 72-49, so you're saying there's a chance.
Chance he might get 60.
Yeah.
70.
You look at a guy like Embiid, right? And we talk about all the conversation about, and we've talked about this, whether or not guys fit. And it's not about him or Ben or Jim. It's how pieces fit, right, to a puzzle. And I said this to you, and I don't know Joel other than we know him, right? But I'm like, this guy wants to be the man. Like, he seems to thrive off of that energy that comes from that. He doesn't care what people think. Like, that's the aggression you want to see him play with. And this is kind of right what he's talked about. He feels like somehow that's taken away from him. Is he making too much of that or not?
Casey, I'm going to answer the question. But first, I'm going to go back and look at is I think sometimes we forget this is a team game.
Yes.
No matter how good you are individual, it also matters who's around you and how do they play. And I look at the Philadelphia 76ers. I think Joel Embiid is fantastic. I think he's gotten even better. But I still look at what's around him right now. They've lost Sarge. They've lost Covington. They've lost Fultz. They've lost Bellinelli. They've lost Ilyasova. That's a lot of guys. So that's 5 guys, and you bring in Jimmy Butler, and you had a draft pick in Shamet, and they're playing well. But I think they've lost so much, and it makes it harder for the great players on their team. The court has gotten smaller, and they don't have a rotation of guys coming in. To me, last year, it was unbelievable. No matter what, it was J.J. or Bellinelli on the floor. Now, J.J. has to be on the floor to me, Grant, for them to have spacing. And then sometimes it was J.J. and Bellinelli and Covington. Whether they were making shots or not, it gave those guys a lot of space, and I think that's what they're missing.
And that's important because they're still young. You know, Simmons and Embiid, as great as they are, as dominant as he's showing in that game, you know, they're still learning the game, learning what it takes to be a winner, learning how to win in the postseason, and having those veterans that Smitty mentioned. Now you surround them with guys who have, you know, experience, high basketball IQs, who, you know, just can bring that value to that team. It was huge, and you lose that, and you don't really replace it and fill in those gaps with those type of players. So, you know, the expectations are high, but this is a different team. Now, I understand Jimmy Butler's there, and obviously you have a year more of experience, but they're not as deep. And those guys, those complimentary guys, they win you a series. They win you a game in a series. And having that support, having them there is important, and they don't have it. So it's going to be interesting to see sort of how as they navigate going forward, and particularly in the postseason, you know, how they do. Can they reach the potential that we all see and expect from them? You know, remains to be seen.
I want to ask you this one real quickly because it almost seems like it's split. There's 2 teams, if you will. There's team Ben Simmons having a great season, unbelievable young talent. Cares if he could shoot. And then there's Ben Simmons growing, unbelievable talent, but now we are pretty sure he's got to figure out how to shoot.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
One, I think for him is ultimately his talent. You want him to be able to have some kind of jump shot. He doesn't have to have a 3-point shot. He's just got to be able to have some kind of jump shot to keep the defense honest. But I think also, we just talked about it, Ben Simmons with J.J. Redick and Bellinelli and Ilyasova and Sarge and Covington, those 5 guys that can make shots. The lane was huge for him. Now the lane is closed down, and it makes you glaring. You look at it as a spotlight now on the things that he can't do. And he's only in the second year of playing.
Great point. And I think back, you know, I see some similarities in my game when I was young, and someone who got to the basket, didn't have a reliable jump shot. And until it becomes a priority, you know, your egos think, well, I'm rookie of the year, I can get to the rim whenever I want. And so you continue with that, and you don't buy into this idea I need to work on it until, you know, 2-3 years and you're getting banged up and you get tired of going in there every time, and you realize, hey, if I add a jump shot, not necessarily a 3-pointer as Smitty mentioned, but just something now, another weapon, now I can keep them off balance. My ability to get to the rim is still there, but now it's like a fastball pitcher, you know, now having a curveball and learning how to throw the 2 pitches. That's a good baseball.
I love what you did there.
Yeah, I
like what you did there, G.
Respect, baby.
Yes.
Respect, yeah.
I'd reach over, my arms aren't long
But
enough.
it's got to be a priority, and when it becomes a priority, I think he'll take that lead.
Hey, look at Zach LaVine and the work he's put on his shot, what it's done for his game. By the way, you like hard workers who improve their offense? see Kawhi Leonard. Remember the defensive player who was going to come out and play? Oh, he does that. And a lot of this. North of the border we go. Return home to San Antonio for Kawhi.
Man, I don't care what, he got mittens.
I can deal with that right there.
No, wait, hold on.
Russell, I could go with
this
that.
right here for a
I don't
second,
mind.
if you can.
Worst case scenario, I could go with.
Hold on, leave this here to our
go
fearless
with the-
leader,
what you got them
Damon
mittens for?
Fisher. Is he wearing my pants? Why can't guys wear pants that are long enough?
It might be raining.
Where's
It
this
might
game?
be
Where's
raining.
this game?
It might be
Where's this
raining.
No, but
OKC.
seriously, what's the deal? Is that like a look? What look is that?
I don't know what that is.
Look at that.
Okay, PG.
And I'm telling you right now, it looks like he's playing Pac-Man on his pants.
They in LA. Why does he have
It
mittens?
never rains in LA, right?
Why does he have mittens?
Russell Westbrook had mittens.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Go back to Westbrook. Let's see.
Can we
that.
go back to Westbrook?
Dude, what? No, seriously though, is that a look? Is that the
Yeah,
thing?
it's look.
It is?
Short pants.
Like you got kids who are cool.
Yeah,
Like, is that the
they do
thing?
that. But the mittens,
My kids aren't that cool.
My kids are 4 and 3. They're just like lucky if they're wearing pants.
man, your kids, they gonna have.
Man,
Your kids get old enough. What they might be wearing now.
that's what they're looking
Be
at.
like, who's my father? Welcome inside our studios here in Atlanta. It is another Wednesday night edition of Game
Spicy.
Time. The usual crew. G Hill, HOF down on the end. Smitty, my hero, because he tolerates me more than anybody else here.
You're my guy, Casey.
Yeah, literally, I don't know. You must have gotten the real short end of the stick. We talk about, obviously, the Lakers during the course of the year and now the situation kind of being without LeBron. And the interesting thing is they play a team in the Thunder that a lot of us think could be potentially a dangerous team come postseason time. The expectations weren't supposed to be there for this year. It wasn't supposed to matter. It would maybe be good he misses games. Maybe you lose, get a pick. All of a sudden, things changed, though, when we realized the West was a little topsy-turvy and the Lakers weren't so bad, right?
You know, and the Lakers was looking at home court advantage. You know, I know it was early, and everybody was saying they have a chance. They have a chance that's just as good as anybody else. The Houston Rockets wasn't playing well. We know the Golden State Warriors will get it together, but they haven't played well. And the OKC Thunder has been a team for me, but I think the pressure now is for the Lakers organization. Do you go try to win, or do you settle and say next year? And I think it all comes down to if they can make a deal during the trade deadline this February.
Yeah, let's be honest. The GOAT there, LeBron, whether or not he's going to be okay with that too, right? I mean, they're not going to sit there and go the other way without him, let's be honest. So when you look at the Lakers, where are they better off? Are they better off? Hey, let's kind of hold tight till LeBron's come back. Maybe we'll kind of tweak a little bit, and later in game time tonight we'll talk about some of the deadline pickups possibly. Or should they go the other way and maybe stock another opportunity to build for the future instead of now?
You know, when you have a LeBron James at this point in his career, I think you go for it. I think you have to take advantage, as Smitty said, right now. There's no one sort of separating from the pack. They're still in the mix, although, you know, obviously going to struggle with LeBron out or potentially struggle with him out. But he only has it's not 25-year-old LeBron James. He's had a lot of miles on his body. He's played a lot of basketball. He's shown already in a short period of time, in 2 months, what he's capable of doing with this young team. He's far exceeded, and they have far exceeded everyone's expectations. So if you can add a piece here or possibly do something to get better, between now and the trade deadline, and knowing Magic Johnson, who wants to win and doesn't have a lot of patience, I could see that happening for the Lakers. Like, hey, let's not wait till next year. Let's go for it right now.
Yeah, I think when you look at LeBron and where he sits, why we're surprised what he can do, and I'm not trying to, I don't want to mention anybody specifically because we're not trying to demean other players, like how do you get these guys here? But look, he's one-man banded before. I mean, remember the team he had with all the injuries and they lose Kyrie. The other side with Oklahoma City, though, I think we got to get into, and not just the pants, and they were interesting pants. Like some real pants. Smitty, you wouldn't wear those. 3D's wearing them somewhere. He's got 3D in the back of the tag.
Players only.
Yeah.
Players only. 3D TV.
3D's kids are going to go to camp and be like, why doesn't it say my name in my undies? But it says 3D Lifestyle Brand. Anyway, I got jokes. So the Thunder. Last year, Chris Paul's injury clearly, but we know the Rockets pushed them because why? They added defense. This team gets stops. They got toughness. They got scores. How dangerous are they?
They're very dangerous, and I said this when we were in the preseason. The reason why I liked him was, one, you have a Paul George who stayed, and obviously that tells you a lot. He didn't go, we all thought he was going to Los Angeles, but he wanted to stay here, so he believed in what the Thunder was doing. He believed in playing with Russell Westbrook and his coaching staff. That's one when you have a superstar player like Paul George. Then you have a Steven Adams that's getting better. Then for me was the pickup of Dennis Schroeder. It takes Russell Westbrook off the ball, or when he subs, you have a guy that can keep the pace. And then it also added a defensive guy in Schroeder. So when you put out Paul George, Russell Westbrook, also Schroeder, and Steven Adams, you have 4 legitimate defenders, and then also they can score. And he hasn't played well, and they're still winning games. I like the Thunder.
And it seems like also, we've talked about this before, Grant, we know Russell still wants to take over at the end of the game. There have been times Paul George, let's be fair, has scored 40, and then Russ is taking the last shot anyway. But are you seeing him transition with PG in a different way he ever did, including when KD played with him, in terms of as a teammate with another big scorer?
Well, a couple of things. One, I think just, Paul George committing. And now, okay, he's going to be here. There's not this uncertainty that was hanging over their head last year. I think that plays a role. And I think, look, a year ago we were talking, can Russell Westbrook win a basketball? Can he win at the way he plays? And what that means is that he did so much for his team that is he going to allow others to enjoy and share in the responsibility? And it seems like he has done that in allowing Paul George to really get back to that level Paul George pre-injury back in his Indiana days. And so now, and Dennis Schroeder coming in, all those things that Smitty touched on. Yeah, less is more. And it's almost like he's comfortable, I think, now with who he is, Russell Westbrook. I think there was something to prove after Durant left. He's done that. I think now it's about trying to win and having a guy like Paul George and the complementary players who bring that toughness, that defense, and now scoring and just understanding what it takes to win. This team is scary.
And they've got guys who could steal a game on their own, which you want if you're trying to beat a better team. You need that. NHL, a goalie, a pitcher, a quarterback. It's that way. Look, you're not going to match up with talent. You can't. I want to ask you, because we're going to talk, Smitty, later in the show about some of the bigger names. But you and I last year remember working together often during that deadline stretch and those Sixers moves. I still think about our conversations on and off the air, right, about Bellinelli. They stand out. A shooter, right?
Yes.
Another shooter here, like a Bellinelli, to somebody who can add to that mix where if late in the game you need a shot and these guys are converged on, you can find somebody to get a bucket, right?
And they've been looking for a shooter. Obviously, when you have talented guys like Russell Westbrook, the more space you give him and the more guys that can knock down shots, and they need that. And that's the one thing they're missing. And also themselves. Russell is shooting atrocious from the three-point line right now. And also, I'm baffled the way he's shooting from the free throw line as well. They are struggling with making shots at times. They're struggling at the three-point line. But when you look at the leaderboard, they're still there. Reason why is they can defend and they can win ugly. And a lot of times they say all the time, can you win games when you're not at your best? And their defense have traveled. And they also missing Roberson. So they still have some guys. And I like the little sneak pickup of Noel. Nerlens Noel has done a nice job in spot minutes behind Steven Adams. So I think they're a deep team. We're going to nitpick. If they can get a shooter, I think they have a chance.
Let me throw this one at you. You can answer this question at NBA TV maybe and kind of jump in on this, but let's take the two teams tonight. Let's put LeBron back soon, okay? Better chance that which of these teams play Golden State in the conference final as of today when you look at the end of the year? Because these are two of the choices, correct?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, with Houston, right.
Right?
I would go with Oklahoma City. And the reason I say that, I just think they have more guys who've been playoff tested. Schroeder, who has been in the playoffs, has been a starting point guard, I don't think would be afraid of the moment. I think obviously Adams, Russell Westbrook, Paul George. I think they would be more inclined and probably to do a better job against the Golden State Warriors. We know LeBron is capable of carrying a team, but these guys that he's playing with, if they don't make a roster change, the playoffs is a whole different experience. And they're still young, and this team was a lottery team before LeBron James came on board this past summer. So I'm more inclined to lean towards Oklahoma City right now, but of course that can change between now and the start of the playoffs.
Smitty?
Today, I'm with G. I got the Thunder. If you're talking about today to where these teams are both constructed, I have to go with the Thunder. They've been there. They've done that. They have more two-way players and more experience to me. And I look at it, and there's no knock on the Lakers. I think the Lakers' future obviously looks better than the Thunder with LeBron. I mean, the Lakers with LeBron James. But a Paul George, a Russell Westbrook, a Schroeder, a Steven Adams, you're naming guys that's been in the fire and experience. And I like with some of their young guys, the way they're playing. I like Grant, the way he's playing. They just need some shooting. If they can get that, or Russell can start to knock down some shots.
Second chance points, rebounds, a lot of those things, right? I noticed you mentioned Denver, so I want to get in there with that. Now, also untested. Look, they didn't have Millsap most of last year. Jokic is still developing. We saw a couple nights ago he takes 5 shots. He'll sometimes kind of head in the background. but they've played like a team who should be in that conversation. Are you still power ranking maybe them behind the other three in some order, Lakers, Thunder, Rockets, in terms of who's that second best team in that conference?
Yeah, and I look at them as experience, and then I think also with them is they just haven't got a chance to play together. Millsap was out last year. It seems like they're starting to get going, and he's out. And then Gary Harris has been out. Will Barton has been out. Everything for me is health, and I don't know when all these guys will get healthy. We still haven't mentioned Isaiah Thomas with the Denver Nuggets. When will he come back? How do you implement him with this? And so I think it'll be more chemistry with them, but I like what they've done.
No, I love the way they play and their offense, their unselfishness. They have a great spirit about them that's fun to watch. But, getting into the postseason, I'm just not ready yet. I'm not 100% sold that they are that team to really contest and go after Golden State in the postseason. Millsap being healthy and all, obviously will play a big role, but I don't know if he's that kind of player now that can really lift the team. It's experience, and they don't have that kind of playoff experience. And so conventional wisdom would say that, they as great as they've been, I think they'll continue to be great in the regular season. It's a whole new ball game in the postseason, and so I just don't know if I'm ready to sort of give them, the nod over a team like OKC.
Now remember, just for a sec, how early we are in a season. Utah comes together, team that plays defense, team that learned last year. Portland still could have big games with the guards. And look, remember last year, the Wolves, right? They just at the last second beating out Denver to get in. And that's we call that a segue here. I know you guys do that on